everybody. My name's Marie Dare and I'm the Learning Officer at Macduff Marine Aquarium, and I've got with me today Chris and Frazer. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves, please?
Yeah, hi. I'm Chris, and I am the displays officer here at Macduff Aquarium, and basically in charge of all the husbandry aspects and all the health and safety and diving within the aquarium.
Awesome.
And I'm Frazer, and I'm Frazer, so I'm the aquarist here at the aquarium, and so it's my job to basically look after the fish on the day-to-day. So I do all the food prep, tank maintenance, exhibit maintenance, and I also feed them, as well as doing things like presentations.
Cool. So, Frazer, do you want to tell us a little bit about what your typical day has been like since the aquarium has now been closed to the public for a number of weeks? What sort of stuff are you getting up to? How are you keeping busy?
Well, the day-to-day of my job hasn't really changed. So I still come in at 9 o'clock in the morning. I do all the life systems checks. So I look at all the filters, pumps, make sure everything's working around the building. I then do a visual check of all the fish, make sure they're all alive, all swimming and happy looking. I then food prep. So make sure everything's ready for the day, feed them out. And then I crack on with jobs around the building. So that could be anything from scrubbing windows, hoovering tanks, to actually retheming. So because we're closed, I can actually make a bit of a mess. When normally I'm trying to make sure I'm cleaning up, I can get on with making messes everywhere and clean that up later. So yeah, so I've been doing retheming and things like that. So it's quite good.
Awesome. What about you, Chris? What have you been keeping busy with?
Alongside similar stuff to Frazer, Frazer and I are working back to back at the moment. So when he's on a day off, I'm in doing very similar things to what he's just explained. I'm also in the process of putting together video packages for the aquarium. So a lot of the videos you've seen going out on YouTube and on Facebook and on our media streams, I've been working on. And for 2 days a week, I work on the Grampian Assistance Hub call center. So nothing to do with aquariums, but taking calls from people who are in need of help across the whole of Grampian to do with coronavirus.
Yeah, that's great. A lot of our colleagues have been deployed doing different tasks than their normal tasks, just to make sure that everybody's contributing and helping out. So that's a really great thing that we can all take part in to help out. But let's get back to the aquarium and the fish. So how do you guys think the fish are doing now that we're close to the public? Do you think that they're missing the interactions a little bit, or do you think they're oblivious?
I think they are. I've certainly noticed as I go around the building, the fish still come over to the windows. Like, it's one thing that you will notice is that the fish come to you, and they come to me quite a lot, probably to Chris as well, who'll say the same. And I think they miss having different people to look at, or different interactions, because people will engage with them differently, and you can see that as you're going around the building. So yeah, I think they are missing the public.
If you think about it, a lot of the fish in there have been with us for a number of years, and on average we'll be used to seeing 47,000 different faces in a year, and suddenly that over the last few months or so is reduced to just 5 of us. And yeah, it must be a bit of a, you'd expect them to notice a bit of a change. It's also quieter, and there's far less interaction from children on, well, there's no interaction of children on any of the glass and the acrylic around the aquarium. So yeah, I would expect them to be a little bit, not necessarily shell-shocked, but a little uneasy of what's going on.
Yeah. Well, we have been doing our best to try and keep the public seeing the fish, at least, even if the fish can't see the public. So we've been doing lots of different social media live feeds. At least once a week, we've been doing a live feed on social media. So we do have some quite regular questions that come in through that social media live feed. So I'm going to ask you guys some of those questions now, if that's okay. So Frazer, can you tell us, what is your favorite fish?
Oh, I can't pick just one. I've got several. I've got several sort of fish that I quite like. I've got the sharks. I love my bullhuss. I think the bullhuss are a lovely little fish. And I also quite like the cod. I like the what are they called? Lumpsuckers. That's it. God, I can't even remember what they're called. And yeah, those are the sort of like the top 3, I think. So lumpsuckers, cod, and the bullhuss sharks would be my top 3.
And why are those your favorites?
Well, it's a shark is one answer for the bull husk, because everyone loves a shark, and it's the bigger of our two sharks, and I just think they're incredibly powerful animals. I'm often in the tank. We have to give them maintenance every now and then, so it involves taking them out, and the strength of some of them is amazing. And it's not a big fish, but it's so strong, and you just got to respect it. So there's that. Cod, they have a lot of character. Like, no two cod in that tank is the same. You look in our main tank and there's like 20 of them, and they are all different, and that's what I like. They've got personality, and lumpsuckers are just cute. So
Yeah, lumpsucker is one of my favorite too. What about you, Chris?
Yeah, very similar actually. To be honest, we all three of us seem to have a bit of a soft spot for lumpsuckers. I tend to like the slightly more unusual things in there. So I'm quite a bit of a fan. We've got a boarfish, which is a fish that you just won't see very often in aquariums. In our Benfic tank, he's called Bertie. I quite like him. And also we've got a tadpole fish as well. Again, a fish that you really won't see very often in other aquariums, that hides under a little ledge in our deep reef tank. And these are fairly unusual deep water fish that are just because I think possibly we're one of the only aquariums to house them. So I've got a little bit of a soft spot for them.
Yeah, it's quite interesting to see unusual fish, isn't it? That was actually one of our questions just recently in our last feed. Someone asked if we had any rare fish. So that helps answer that one too. That's great. So you already mentioned that some of our fish have been with us for quite a long time. Do you have any idea which one we've had the longest?
This is one of those questions that crops up quite a lot, and say, oh, which one's the oldest fish? Which one have you had the longest? Sometimes it's very difficult to tell. I know we've had some of the fish in the aquarium for around the 20-year mark. Certainly we've had some of the invertebrates, some of the anemones in the aquarium are original from when we first opened the building 22 years ago. But yeah, there's a couple of Ballon wrasse that I'm, as far as I'm aware of, probably the longest lived, or sorry, certainly the oldest fish within our aquarium, the ones we've had longest.
Great. Okay, and off the top of your head, do either of you know how many fish we have?
What, in the whole aquarium?
Yeah.
I had to look this up this morning, but I can give you an exact number as of this morning, and it's 518 individual fish.
518 fish, and then of course, yeah, if we count.
If you count invertebrates, it's into the hundreds.
Yeah.
So yeah, 518 individual fish and 57 different species of fish.
Great. Okay, well, I think we're pretty much just running out of time there, but we did have one of our followers on Facebook send us in a question that's quite a unique question, and it was about if our divers has ever tried to hypnotize the dogfish. So Chris, you mentioned that you do have some experience with this. So can you just tell us a little bit about the process and if you've ever tried it?
So yeah, the rumor that you can hypnotize sharks is completely true. There is an adaptation within the shark that means if it's turned upside down in a certain way that its brain basically can't cope with it, and it puts it into a state of what is called tonic immobility. And it is used within the shark species during the mating process, where male sharks will actually intentionally turn female sharks upside down and put them into this state of tonic. We have done it not within Macduff Aquarium. I've had experience of doing it with sand tiger sharks in order to do ultrasound scanning. And sure enough, if you can manhandle a shark and turn it upside down, it then spends half an hour or so in this state of tonic where it's just spaced out. It's like almost putting it under an anesthetic. It's an amazing thing to watch, especially with a 3 meter long shark. With regarding the animals and the sharks that we've got at Macduff Aquarium, our little dogfish and bullhuss, as far as I'm aware, you can't do it with them simply because of their adaptations. They don't need to be able to go into tonic. So it's not an adaptation that I've ever seen done with smaller dogfish species.
Doesn't it have to do with how they actually respirate? Because the cat sharks will pump water over their gills, whereas the other sharks that you can induce tonic, isn't that just sharks that are ram ventilated?
Not necessarily, because the sand tiger sharks that we were doing it with at a previous aquarium, they're they're active breathers. So
Okay.
they have that active breathing and can stop swimming. It is more common in ram breathers, or the ones that are passive respirators. So it is more common in those species. But for little dogfish that spend most of their lives scurrying in amongst rocks and up and down bits of kelp to lay eggs and things like that, if you think about them going upside down, then they would be in tonic all the time.
Yeah.
So it is mainly your big ocean species that have this weird feature to them.
Great. Well,
I've seen it in
Sorry,
I've seen
go
it in a small species of shark in the wild, actually. I was in South Africa. Oh, this is way back, and I was on a dive, and the person leading the dive came across a small South African species of shark. I think it was a pajama shark or something, and they just sort of tickled it on the nose and rolled it over, and it just went into this sort of like tonic state and curled into a ball. And it just sort of sat there for about 20 minutes. So that was quite interesting. But
It's definitely an interesting behavior. Okay, guys. Well, thank you very much for your time. I think we will wrap it up there, and we will come back with another podcast in the near future. So thanks for listening.
Bye.
bye, everybody.
How do I actually stop recording? Does anybody know?
No.
So not a
I'm pressing the same button, but it's just saying you are recording. Okay, here we go.